The first time people smiled at them as if they belonged together. Noah Carter almost apologized. He was standing in the middle of a crowded charity fundraiser inside a beautiful art museum in Chicago, Illinois, wearing faded jeans, worn work boots, and a green work shirt stained from fixing a burst water pipe. Just an hour earlier. Beside him stood Grace Mitchell, the elegant CEO of one of America's fastest-growing healthcare companies, dressed in a royal blue suit that seemed completely out of place next to his simple clothes. Between them clung Noah's frightened 6-year-old daughter, Chloe, whose tiny fingers refused to let go of Grace's hand after nearly getting separated from her father in the crowd. Then someone laughed warmly and said how wonderful it was to see such a beautiful family together. Noah immediately tried to explain, but Grace simply smiled and said nothing. That single moment would change 3 lonely lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and ordinary people can change someone's life, please take a second to like this video. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Share this story with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories every week. Noah had never expected to attend a charity gala. He spent his days repairing heating systems, fixing broken plumbing, and working overtime to pay the medical bills left behind after losing his wife, Rebecca, 3 years earlier. Every dollar mattered. Every hour mattered even more, because Chloe had become his entire world. She was quiet now. No longer the cheerful little girl who used to dance around the living room while her mother baked cookies. Grief had stolen pieces of both father and daughter. But Noah promised himself every night that somehow he would give Chloe a happy childhood. That Saturday morning started. Like every other, Noah received an emergency call from the museum, hosting one of the city's biggest fundraising events. A water pipe had burst beneath one of the exhibition halls. He arrived before sunrise, expecting to finish before the guests appeared. Unfortunately, the repair took much longer than expected. His babysitter canceled unexpectedly, leaving him no choice but to bring Chloe with him. She quietly colored in a small notebook, while Noah crawled through maintenance tunnels and tightened leaking valves. Grace Mitchell had spent years building Mitchell Care Systems into a company worth billions of dollars. Newspapers admired her success, but knew almost nothing about her personal life. Behind every magazine cover was a woman who spent most evenings alone in a luxury penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. Her parents had passed away years before. Her engagement had ended after discovering her fiancé cared more about her fortune than her heart. And work became the safest place to hide from disappointment. As the gala guests filled the museum, Noah finally finished the repairs. He was preparing to leave when Chloe wandered toward a sculpture gallery. Within seconds, she disappeared into the growing crowd. Panic hit Noah harder than anything he had ever experienced. He searched desperately until he found Chloe standing beside Grace, tears filling her eyes while Grace knelt beside her, gently comforting the frightened little girl. When Noah reached them, relief overwhelmed him so completely that he struggled to speak. Grace quietly assured him Chloe had been safe the entire time. The grateful father thanked her repeatedly. But before either of them could walk away, photographers covering the charity event captured the unexpected scene. An exhausted father, an elegant executive comforting his daughter, and a child holding both their hands looked exactly like a family. Guests smiled as they walked past. Some congratulated them. Others complimented their beautiful daughter. Noah tried several times to explain the misunderstanding. Yet Grace simply smiled politely and continued walking beside them. It wasn't because she wanted attention. For the first time in years, she realized how peaceful it felt to walk beside people who expected nothing from her except kindness. The misunderstanding continued throughout the evening. Chloe naturally reached for Grace whenever the crowd became overwhelming. Grace found herself laughing more than she had in years as Chloe proudly showed her drawings and asked innocent questions about the colorful paintings decorating the museum walls. Noah noticed something remarkable. Chloe's laughter had returned. When the evening ended, Grace quietly handed Noah her business card. She explained that Mitchell Care Systems sponsored family support programs throughout Chicago and believed his daughter might enjoy one of their children's activities. Noah hesitated before accepting. Pride had always prevented him from asking anyone for help. Grace understood without him saying a word. She simply told him every parent deserved support sometimes. Weeks passed before Noah gathered enough courage to attend one of the community events. Chloe immediately recognized Grace and ran into her arms with a smile that melted every wall Grace had carefully built around her heart. Volunteers assumed they were already close friends, and again no one questioned whether they were a family. The local newspapers soon published the museum photographs. Headlines praised the billionaire CEO for staying grounded and supporting her hard-working husband at a charity event. Grace's public relations team urged her to issue a correction. Immediately, investors disliked confusion, and gossip spread quickly online. Grace stared at the draft statement on her desk for nearly an hour. Correcting the story would protect her reputation. Remaining silent would protect something far more fragile, a little girl who had finally started smiling again, and a father who never once treated her like a billionaire. Instead of releasing the statement, Grace requested a meeting with her board. She announced an expansion of the company's Family Assistance Foundation, inspired by the struggles faced by working single parents across America. Reporters focused on the charitable announcement rather than the rumors. Meanwhile, Noah discovered that Grace never tried to solve his problems with money. Instead, she attended Chloe's school play, helped her practice reading, and sometimes joined them for simple dinners where everyone laughed over homemade spaghetti and burned garlic bread. It was the ordinary moments Grace treasured most, because they reminded her that genuine love could never be purchased. One rainy evening, Chloe quietly asked Noah if Grace could come to her school's Family Appreciation Day. Noah's heart tightened. He worried Grace deserved a normal life without complicated expectations. Before he could answer, Grace accepted the invitation herself. At the school event, parents naturally assumed Noah and Grace were married. This time, Noah looked toward Grace before correcting them. She smiled warmly and gently squeezed Chloe's shoulder. There was no embarrassment on her face, only peace. Months later, Noah finally learned why. Grace confessed that when strangers believed they were a family, she stopped feeling like the lonely CEO everyone admired from a distance. She simply felt human. She felt needed. She felt like she belonged somewhere for the first time since losing her own parents. Noah admitted he had spent years believing his simple life could never fit beside someone as successful as Grace. Yet every memory that mattered had nothing to do with wealth. It was Chloe's birthday cake covered in too much frosting, weekend walks beside Lake Michigan, snowball fights, hospital visits when Chloe caught the flu. Grace had quietly become part of every chapter. The biggest surprise came during the following year's charity gala. The museum invited Noah back, not as a repairman, but as the guest speaker. Standing before hundreds of donors, Noah shared how one unexpected act of kindness transformed a frightened little girl, a struggling father, and a lonely executive. He explained that people often judge families by appearances, expensive clothes, or matching last names. But real families are built through compassion, sacrifice, forgiveness, and showing up when someone needs you most. The audience rose to their feet in applause. Grace wiped away tears without trying to hide them. A few weeks later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon in Chicago's Millennium Park, Noah asked Grace if she wanted the misunderstanding to become the truth. There was no grand audience, no photographers, no billion-dollar announcement. Only Chloe holding both of their hands beneath the warm summer sky. Grace's answer came with tears instead of words. 1 year after strangers first mistook them for a couple, they stood in a small church surrounded by friends, neighbors, co-workers, and children whose lives had been changed by Grace's foundation. Chloe proudly walked between them, smiling brighter than anyone else in the room. Sometimes life doesn't create miracles with dramatic moments. Sometimes it begins with a frightened child, reaching for the hand of a stranger who chooses not to let go. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Special request before you leave, comment with "Kindness creates family." If you believe love is defined by actions, not appearances. Because sometimes the greatest love story doesn't begin with two people falling in love. It begins with one simple decision, not to walk away from someone who needs you.